Welcome to Let's Talk Success. I'm Desiree Dubois, founder of An Empowered Woman and Let's Talk Success. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Nadine Nicholson from Calgary, Canada. And she's the founder, president of MeJane. Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Hi, great. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. So what is MeJane?
Love to tell you. So, MeJane is a coaching and consulting company based in Canada. I work with a lot of Canadians and Americans. And really, it's the play on me, Tarzan, you, Jane. And so the idea of it is it's based on Jane, who is a metaphor of my ideal client. And it's to help her take a stand for what really matters to her in her business, to really get back to the primal essentials and focus on what matters most now to create the future that she wants next.
So you say the essentials. What are some of the essentials, Nadine, that you
Great
feel?
question. Yeah, good question. So, some of the essentials are things like making sure that she knows her core values, making sure that she is making decisions based on what matters most to her, that she's taking action in her business in a way that's aligned for her. So core values is a huge one that a lot of people overlook actually, as and sort of think, well, I might know them or I think I know them, but to really truly pinpoint them and make decisions from that place is a really foundational piece for me, Jane, and for Jane.
So once they establish their core values, then you say you make the decisions from that place. I mean, as far as their business decisions, how they build their business, how they build their team,
Yes.
The programs and the services. How does that make that big of a difference, whether they just kind of launched into it or whether they started with that great foundation?
That's a great question. It makes a huge difference because what happens if you think about the way society has, and we can talk about success because success is such a big part of this interview. When we think about how success is defined or how a lot of people we've been taught and conditioned, it's a lot about climbing the career ladder, making more money, having a nicer car, achieving, reaching, striving. And so what I do and why core values are so important is that it helps the woman entrepreneur get grounded in what truly matters to her, not what other people think she should be doing or what other people are doing, but what matters to her, and to be able to make decisions from that place so that she's got a clear vision of what success really is, and she's able to move from the inside out versus trying to keep up with everybody else or trying to do what other people are doing.
That's really prevalent because when you talk about success, there are so many definitions, and I want everyone to know that they define their definition of success, and that's their definition. That's the one they should be living by. What are some of the things that you say or you think that you've contributed towards the success of you and your business?
Sure. One I would say for sure, like quite a few factors. One I would say I want to go directly to mindset. And what I mean by that is just naturally taking a positive focus. It's very easy to look at what's not being done, especially in the first few years of business, right? I've been in business now almost 6 years on my own. It's very easy to look at the gap of all of the things on one's plate, everything that needs to be done, or feeling like we're behind or something, along those lines. But to flip that around and to say, let's focus on 3 things. Let's focus on what have I accomplished today? What are my achievements, however big or small they are? And then point number 2 is, why are those achievements important? Like kind of, almost selling myself and buying into the fact that they're achievements, right? No matter how small or big they are. What about that achievement is moving me forward? And then the third point is, okay, now based on these things that I've accomplished today, what is next? What are my next steps and my next actions related to each of these achievements? So when we identify our next steps based on what we have accomplished, we're moving forward from the place of progression, of progress, right? Instead of the place of lack. And that subtle shift is everything. It's so very important. Many times those actions that are identified are actually the gap, but because they're positioned from a place of positive focus, it propels us. The momentum moves forward. So I've used that technique extensively. Every day I use that technique, and it's, I would say, the number one thing that has been part of my own success in my business.
You know, that's a very interesting perspective. I've heard so many of them, and I find that so right on. You know, and I think it's not because we haven't heard about going forward with, you know, the positive things and acknowledging them, but I acknowledge you for being able to collaborate and to be able to connect them so beautifully. And I
Thank you.
think that because we often know, and we speak up to the fact that no matter where you are in your journey as a businesswoman, as a professional woman, as a woman, period, there are always going to be those days, those moments, those times where you just wonder what you're doing, why you're doing it, and with whom you're doing it with. You know, when there's transitions,
Absolutely.
it's never going to be without that kind of question that comes up, wherever you are. From people, talk to people from that are multimillionaires, and they still have different days where they say, you know, I just don't know, I don't wonder why.
Yeah.
And I think if you can really, you know, take what you just said and implement it on a consistent basis, I think that will create a lot of movement. So thank you for that gift.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So you're also exposed to a lot of women who have been very successful in their businesses. And what common thread do you find prevalent amongst those ladies?
Yeah, well, definitely what I just talked about. The second one that I want to build on is belief, self-belief. And this builds on positive focus, because if you remember what I said about step number 2 in positive focus, about buying in and believing in why that achievement was an achievement. What I see as a common thread, and I have this in my own business and I teach this and work with my own clients in this way, is that when we want to make a change, when we want to make a leap, and the women I'm around and that I work with and see, they want to make a big leap. Like there's something that they want. They want something more. There's a hole in their soul. It's like if they don't have this leap, they're not going to feel complete. But the key point is that in order to make a successful leap, they need to see very clearly why a change is needed. They need to believe that there's a reason for the change, because it's going to take time, effort, resources, money, all those things to successfully make that leap. And for when there is a reason for change, that trigger, that catalyst, it's so deep that they know exactly why they're making the change and they believe in it, then creating a vision and making a roadmap and all those things become easy. It's when that belief is so solid about why a change is even needed in the first place is usually when the changes succeed. So it's belief.
But just the belief alone is going to be able to propel them through that moment, whatever it is.
And belief in why a change is needed. It's the why of making a change, because there's effort that's involved in making a change.
Yeah.
It comes back to, like, if I know why and I can see that it's worth it, then, and I believe in that, then the time, effort, money, all those things start to kind of fizzle away as important factors. It's the self-belief that carries them through.
And that's huge. I mean, it's when people say, we say it as if it's easy, but that's itself sometimes is what disables people from actually being able to move forward, is that belief. And yet it's so tangible, but so intangible.
Yeah, it is true. So true.
One of the things that we believe, you know, what's that thought, is that there's not enough positive programming out there for women professionals and entrepreneurs. We need to see, you know, it's good to see it in action. We hear about these women that have achieved success and they've had these grand ideas, but to actually see them and hear their story and their challenges, their victories, and their secrets to success is not as available as we wanted to be. So that's why we created the Let's Talk Success shows, and where we feature women on a monthly basis, and we eventually would like to, you know, build it up to a weekly basis, so that we have this, because there's so many women out there that have amazing stories that, for anything, if nothing else, but to inspire us and to keep instilling that belief in us that we can do forward is it. So what do you feel about the programming that's available? There's a lot of reality shows and soap operas, but they're not the models that, you know, truly, I think a lot of women, businesswomen, want to follow. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, that's a really great question. Oh, we could have a whole interview on that topic. You know, it's interesting. I remember when I started university, I was 17 years old, and I was taking a women's studies class, so I had a real keen interest for women and women's issues at a very early age. And I remember I came up with my life purpose is to help women be heard, be free, and prosper. And I think about that in relation to what is being seen. I mean, it's it's just one person's life purpose, right?
Yeah.
Mine. But if I look at that and look at the programming that we see online, be free, be heard, prosper. A lot of the programming is really not doing a lot of these things, or it's not encouraging. It's more suffocating. It's more it's just kind of like not helpful. It's not really helping moving forward a positive reputation of women. And I actually think that a lot of women buy into that and get entertained, sadly, by some of that. So I love what you're doing. I want more of it. I want it to be weekly because I think that there's such a need for women to be able to see the good, bad, and ugly, right? Like the great things that are happening, the challenges, really get under the hood, really get behind the scenes with a business owner, a woman who's successful, and learn what have been the challenges in her life, what have been the hardships. Let's really get the real story about this woman, who she really is, and like own her brilliance of all of that, of all of who she is, that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay. It's a strength to be vulnerable. It's a strength to share these things because we're whole. We're a whole person. So I hope you do more because I think it's really needed.
Well, we will, and I thank you so much for supporting us in that thought.
Of course, whatever I can do.
So what empowering thoughts would you like to leave our listeners with today?
I'd like to leave the thought with everybody is when you see it and you believe it, you can have it. So when you see a vision, when you get clear about where it is you're going and you want to go, and get help with that if you're too close to your own stuff. When you then believe it and buy into it, that you can have it, that you truly deserve it, and you put that, you take action and you start moving it forward, you can have it. You can have what you envision. You just need to see it, believe it, and move it forward, and you can do it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's obviously that's what you've been doing, and that's what you've been coaching and assisting others and supporting others in doing the same. And we really appreciate it. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
To the world.
I appreciate
thanks again, and I want to thank our viewers today for joining us on Let's Talk Success. And until we meet again, stay empowered.